Raja Krishnamoorthi was one of the congresspeople that went back in to do the people's work. Congressman, thanks for joining us. Hi.
Hey, John.
Where were you when all of this happened? Were you one of the Democrats on the floor, or had you then gone back to chambers?
I was in the chambers. I was about to head to the floor, and the Capitol Police basically came to my office and just shouted at the top of their lungs, "Get out, get out, get out." And we just had to kind of quickly get to the next secure location. And then from there, my staff said it's time to move again because the protesters had gotten much further into the Capitol complex than anyone thought. And then, I went to another secure location and ended up there about, I think, 7-8 hours. I lost track.
Yeah. What are you thinking or feeling about last night?
I think it was a mixture of pride, anger, sadness. Certainly there was a huge adrenaline rush as there was a little bit of a fight or flight response for a lot of us because we just didn't know the full extent of what was about to happen. Earlier in the day, we had seen the crowd starting to gather in D.C., and they looked a lot larger than we anticipated. But then I think when the president made his speech and he basically, told them to go to the Capitol and quote unquote go wild, I thought that was kind of that was instigating the mob at that point. And I think we all saw the outcome, but it was a horrible assault on democracy.
I have two questions for you, Congressman. One is, what should happen to the people once we identify them that did storm the Capitol? And how interested are you in either removing President Trump for office via the 25th or impeachment again? Start with what should happen to the people that went into the Capitol. What's your thought about that?
Well, heck, it was more than 52 people. That's the number of people who got arrested. And so we have to track them down and bring them to justice. I think that there's going to have to be a massive investigation of what were all the security failures. But the fact that, unfortunately, when thousands and thousands of people swarm the Capitol Police, it's hard to defend against it. But on the other hand, I saw video of some of the Capitol Police taking selfies with these people and so forth once they breach the Capitol entrance, and that's just very disturbing. With regard to the president, I think yesterday reached kind of a new and kind of a new depth that we had not anticipated in terms of his behavior. I think there's a lot of people calling for his removal via either of those two mechanisms you talked about. On the other hand, he's leaving in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to. We're all trying to make sure that we can deploy maximum energies to, getting people vaccinated and repairing the economic damage of the pandemic. Yeah. And all of our energy, in some regard, was directed toward that particular issue. And unfortunately, the pandemic is still with us today, John.
Your point being you don't want to be distracted by trying to remove Trump from office with 2 weeks left. You'd rather, by the way, vaccinations in the nation's capital were postponed or canceled yesterday because of the unrest. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that back up and running, but every time a major American city says we can't vaccinate you, we lose lives. So I take your point, Congressman. I know you're a regular guest on our shows, and I'll ask you to join us again next week. I've got a lot of listeners that want to call in too, Raja. Any last thing you want to say?
I just want to say that today we have to remember, we might be Democrats and Republicans, but we're all on Team USA, and we have to put aside our differences and come together to achieve our full potential as Americans. And we saw what happens when we don't. And yesterday we saw the abyss, and it's a dark, dark place. No one wants to go.
Congressman Rajnar Krishnamoorthi. Okay, Congressman, we'll visit again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you are well and safe.